Let's talk about stars. I love stars. And this week we're going to talk about basic properties of stars. Stars come in different types. um, Blue ones and yellow ones and red ones. And how do you tell them apart? And how do you tell ones that's a little bit red from one that's just not quite so red? And scientists have ways of doing this, and that's some of the things we're going to talk about. So let's just dive into Canvas and take a look at what's going on. That's what we're going to start with, is stellar classification. You are going to become familiar with something called "Oh, Be a Fine Girl, Kiss Me," which is a little mnemonic device that we use to help remember the different colors and classifications of stars. Why is that important? Because that really tells us a lot about the life cycle of stars and the different stages of life they go through. Remember that study guide or reading guide, very important to help you go through the textbook. That helps you much more than I can just say in a little bit of video. Then we're going to go into the Hertzsprung-Russell diagrams. Hertzsprung and Russell, two astronomers, very intelligent human beings, and they put stars of various classifications onto a graph. And what came out was a really interesting image that led to us understanding the life cycle of stars. Those of you who have had chemistry, you understand how important the periodic table is. This is sort of the periodic table of stars. Very important in the world of astronomy. Binary stars are twosies. These are multiple star systems. Over half of the stars in the cosmos do not hang around as solo stars. They hang around together, two or more that are actually orbiting each other. So we're going to talk about different kinds of binaries. Variable stars are stars that do not have a continuous or constant luminosity. These are stars that change or vary the brightness, some in as short as a few hours, others in periods of weeks. And these are fabulous because we can use these to measure distance. How cool is that? Then we get to our lab this week, which we are going to spend some time using astronomy apps, our constellations for the week, our quiz, of course. So let's take a look at our app lab. This week's lab is all about astronomy apps. So you are going to need some sort of a computer that you can download some astronomy apps on. I'm assuming most people are going to have a smartphone or a tablet that they can use. Now, the lab is written so it can be done using all free astronomy apps, but I am going to highly encourage you, if you physically can, to buy a couple apps for $3, $4, $5. If you can buy one paid app, your life is going to be better. And quite honestly, astronomy apps just make me happy, because if I can pick up an app and aim it at something in the sky that I'm not sure exactly, is that or that, boy, the astronomy apps are just make my life in astronomy happier. I have some suggestions. These top three are ones that I have found very, very versatile. Students have recommended to me, whether you have Android or Apple. If you currently have some apps that you use, probably those are going to work just fine. If you say, I'm not spending any money, Mary, well, then here is a collection of some free or light versions of apps that you can use. But I'll be frank, if you're going to stick to the free apps, you might have to download multiples of these and possibly go online for some other answers. So let's go. When you first download your apps, you have to allow them to access your location so that they can give you the accurate picture of what the sky is going to look like from your location. Also, periodically, they're going to use the internal gyroscope of your phone, so it will periodically need to calibrate. You're going to be twisting around, working above your head during this lab and working with the apps, so please make yourself comfortable. Please don't put yourself in a physical situation where you may fall over or hurt your neck. That's just the nature of it. And make sure as you're working with the apps that you periodically are going to have to go to the settings icon. Sometimes it looks like this. Sometimes it looks like what is referred to as the hamburger icon. And you're going to have to set some things internally, like your latitude, longitude, or location. I tried making the lab very generic. I had all the free apps in front of me while I made the lab, and I tried to ask a lot of generic questions that would work on most all of the apps. So using your app, I ask you for some questions about what constellations are on the horizon, north, south, east, west, da 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 da. I ask you to walk around the app and go around that plane of the ecliptic and look at which constellations are above that plane of ecliptic. Remember that time gone, cowboys love viewing little stars, oh so cold and pretty. Write down those constellations and then scroll along your app and scroll along that plane of ecliptic and put little stars next to the ones that are currently above the horizon. And this is based on the moment you are actually doing the lab. The planets, same sort of thing. Include this. If I always include Pluto, show Pluto, don't show Pluto. That's kind of up to you. Some apps require that you have to turn the Pluto button on to include it. I just still like Pluto, so I like to include it. But we're going to talk about where those are, and I want you to just explore the apps, because my philosophy is in the future, you're probably not going to carry a telescope around, but you're going to have your phone. And the app is something you can always aim up at the sky and say, what's that? What's that in the sky? And the app will help you have fun observing. So you're going to look at a whole variety of different things, some constellations. I tried to pick some common ones. I wanted more than anything to show you the power of these astronomy apps. They can show you altitude and azimuth. They can show you right ascension and declination. They can tell you things about the sun and gravitational forces. I want you to look at some deep sky objects like different galaxies, some clusters. I want you to look at different nebula, some different things, different Messier numbers. I want you to look at man-made objects and space junks. Some apps are better at these than others, so I tried to pick things that were kind of cool and easily found. Hubble, of course, International Space Station. And if you can't find some of this on your app, definitely look online. A few years back, SpaceX was testing one of their rockets, so they launched a car into space. Of course, it was strapped in. Of course, it's not just floating around like a free car out there, but see if you can find some information about that. And find some other satellite or junk that's floating around. A lot of apps have a section that lists this, and it's a hoot going, what is that? What is that? Because things that are in low Earth orbit, you can lay out on your blanket on a nice summer evening and see these things going across the sky. So the purpose of the whole lab this week is exploring these apps because, as I said, you're probably not going to buy a $2,000 telescope today, but you probably have a phone. And if you have a phone, you can probably rustle up $4 for an app. And with that app, boy, you can find so many cool bits of astronomy. So enjoy and have fun playing with it. Lots of good information out there. And enjoy learning about stars. Great stuff. Talk to you soon.